everyone, Swati and Vinayak from the Jam Club, and welcome back to our channel where we dive deep into the world of whiskey, bringing you closer to the finest drams from around the world.
In today's video, we will be tasting 3 whiskies from a distillery that we recently visited, the Royal Brackla Distillery. And all these 3 whiskies are now available in India. So join us today for tasting the Royal Brackla 12-year-old, 18-year-old and 21-year-old. But before we get started with the tasting, please like and subscribe to our channel.
But first up, some history and interesting facts about the Royal Brackla Distillery. Established in 1812 by Captain William Fraser, Royal Brackla was first of the only 3 distilleries in Scotland to receive a royal warrant when King William IV granted it a royal warrant in 1835. Royal Brackla is not only the oldest distillery under Dewar's umbrella, but it's also their biggest distillery in terms of production. During the Second World War, the distillery was taken over by the Royal Air Force and it was used as a training ground for new pilots. Royal Brackla Distillery is built on the Cawdor estate, which overlooks the Cawdor Castle, best known for its literary connection with Macbeth written by Shakespeare. And now, after all the history lesson, let's jump into the best part, which is tasting all the 3 expressions from Royal Brackla.
So let's have a look at the canister of the Royal Brackla 12-year-old and what it tells us about the whiskey. It's aged 12 years, finished in Oloroso sherry casks. And what's very interesting about their packaging is they've really tried to put their philosophy of whiskey making on the box. And one very interesting note that I would like to read out: a natural approach, embrace the haze. Our whiskies are released with 8 statements at 46% alcohol by volume and natural color. When you add ice or water to your whiskey, you will see some hazing in the liquid. This is natural and a sign of quality.
First up, let's get started with tasting notes of the 12-year-old. The 12-year-old has been matured initially in ex-bourbon casks and then finished in Oloroso sherry cask. I think from the very appearance, you can see the impact of Oloroso. Pretty much amber for me, the color.
Yeah, amber, deep gold kind.
Copper.
There's a bit of density of
nice viscosity
to it.
Viscosity is quite good on this one. Anyway, so let's have a nose of this one. You instantly get that sherry influence.
Yeah, hints of spices. Like you get that how sherry is drying. You get that little bit on the nose.
I'm getting a lot of brown sugar, some figs. There's definitely some cinnamon coming through.
There's some dried fruits like a date.
Yeah, raisins.
Yeah.
Very inviting nose.
I think it'll be interesting to see how this whiskey changes with a few drops of water.
Yes. So let's add a couple of drops of water.
I think immediately the sweeter notes get pronounced. The spices have kind of mellowed down.
I think for me, the red fruit notes, I'm getting more of berries.
Okay.
Some the fresh fig sort of aroma.
Okay.
Coming through now.
Yeah.
And definitely those, and also a bit of creaminess coming through now. Creamy and nutty notes becoming more prominent now.
Should we take a sip?
Yeah.
Lots of fruit, lots of spice.
Oh, the spice is there.
Yeah.
And spicy. Oh, it has a very nice mouthfeel. Quite rich in terms of mouthfeel.
Yeah. It's got this velvety texture.
Oh, again, for me, it's a lot of desserty notes. You get prunes, there is some cocoa nibs, hazelnuts, spice definitely, cinnamon, nutmeg. Oh man, it's a very lingering finish on this one.
It has a very Christmas cake kind of a feeling to the whiskey.
And also that 46% ABV adds a nice mouthfeel, feel to the overall feel and texture, body to the whiskey. So
it's a very warm whiskey, I would say. Like it gives you that warmth of a spice, sweet. I get caramel, brown sugar, and I think it's very well rounded. Like you have all of these flavors that are on the palate, and but it's still well balanced. It's still got a very good mouthfeel, and it's inviting you to have more of the whiskey with every sip.
I mean, right from the color to the nose to the palate, the mouthfeel, texture. So, what's your take on the finish?
I think it's long, spicy, red fruit notes. I also get a little bit of chocolate.
Okay.
Like the milk chocolate. Yeah. So for me, that's the finish.
I think for me, finish is a bit of cinnamon. I'm getting. It's very long though. I'm surprised. I was not expecting such a long finish on this one. So for me, the finish is surprisingly long.
Right.
I get some cinnamon, hints of dark chocolate. Some white pepper sort of. It has a nice bite, spicy note. It's not the cinnamon spiciness, but that white pepper nose that I'm getting. It's quite interesting. I mean, for a 12-year-old, it's a beautiful whiskey, and I'm glad it's available now.
Now in India.
So on a scale of 1 to 10, how would you rate the whiskey?
I think an 8.5 on 10.
I think for me as well, it's a 8.5. It's a beautiful whiskey.
Yeah.
So now let's review the 18-year-old.
The Royal Brackla 18-year-old, aged for a minimum of 18 years in select oak casks and has been finished in Palo Cortado sherry casks. Interestingly, the canister says the King's Own Whisky because Royal Brackla was the first whiskey to get the Royal Warrant.
So because it has been finished in Palo Cortado cask, you can see the color on this one is much paler compared to Oloroso, because Palo Cortado is a slightly different style of sherry compared to Oloroso.
Yeah.
And the color is more on the pale golden.
Yeah, no amber or coppery hues that we saw on the 12-year-old.
Let's see how it feels on the nose and the palate. This is less of red fruits. For me, I'm getting a bit of herbaceous notes on it.
Okay.
Some citrus, but like, not juicy oranges, like a tart lemon.
Okay. I get biscuits.
Okay.
Which
biscuit? Parle-G, no?
No, not Parle-G. I also get a little bit of vanilla.
Yeah, so I'm getting that vanilla, I'm getting a bit of custard, and I'm getting some apricot as well.
I am getting some fruity notes. I also get orange zest. Like there's a citrusy nose to this.
Let's add a couple of drops of water and see what happens.
Some sweeter notes are becoming more prominent. But I'm also getting like some sweet spices now, which I wasn't getting earlier. But I still get that barley, biscuity.
I know what you get. I think it's more of that porridge morning breakfast that you get.
Yeah.
Well, let's have a sip now.
It's definitely a very sweeter profile of whiskey. While there are spices, but I think the sweet notes are more pronounced. I'm getting a bit of caramel, honey, like hints of cinnamon. Vanilla is definitely there.
I think for me, the first thing that I noticed is it's not as intense for me as the 12-year-old. 12-year-old was quite demanding on your palate. It had like richness. This one is subtle.
Yeah.
Yet there is a lot happening. It's more, it's like, a fruit pastry for me. There is a bit of that vanilla. There is a bit of that creaminess, and you have a host of fruits that are there.
It's definitely a mellower whiskey than a 12-year-old. I think it's like pineapple cake. Fruits, sweet, creaminess.
Slight tart.
Yeah, slightly tart.
I had a couple of sips of this one. This is a pleasantly complex whiskey. It is delicate, it is very inviting, and it has a nice complexity on it. And also because what I'm liking about the whiskey is you don't get a lot of whiskeys in the market that are finished in Palo Cortado cask. So that brings a nice uniqueness to the whiskey in terms of flavor profile and the aromas. So that works quite well for me. What about finish for you, Swati?
I think the finish is actually spicy. Mild spices, not like black pepper and all. But yeah, it is slightly on the spicier side. It's lingering and it's fairly long.
So I think for me, the finish is long, definitely. I'm getting some oak. I'm getting a bit of creamy vanilla sort of a finish, but quite long for me.
I think it's a perfect Sunday breakfast whiskey.
Well, I will not start my Sunday with a whiskey, but yeah, you're free to start. On a scale of 1 to 10, how will you rate the whiskey?
I think I'm leaning towards like a 9.
Oh, wow. Okay.
I think it's a very, it has a lot of complexity.
Yeah.
But still, it's a very easy sipping whiskey.
So I think for me, on a scale of 1 to 10, 8.
Okay.
I still prefer my whiskey to be a bit more punchy, but it's a very, very pleasant whiskey.
Yeah. So you want it to be a lot more boisterous than this.
Yeah, a bit like me. So shall we now move on to the 21-year-old, the top of the line in the range?
Yep. So the Royal Brackla 21-year-old, aged for a minimum of 21 years in select oak casks, and interestingly has been finished in 3 sherry casks: Oloroso, Palo Cortado, and Pedro Jimenez. All bottles and the box of Royal Brackla have 4 time periods mentioned on their packaging, which are the time periods when actually the distillery was silent. The first time period is 1813 to 1814, then the Second World War, 1940 to 1945, then 1964 to 1966, and the last is 1985 to 1990.
Let's start the 21-year-old.
Yeah. Again, lighter color than the 12-year-old, but I think slightly darker than the 18-year-old. There's lots going on.
It is a complex whiskey. Again, like the previous 2 bottled at a ABV of 46%.
But I get a lot of rich fruit notes, figs, apricot, some dates.
I'm getting some nuttiness, cream, prunes, figs.
I'm getting that caramelized brown sugar.
Some cinnamon and oak coming through now.
Little bit of spice also, yes.
Star anise. Cool. Let's add some water.
Yeah.
Oh, we didn't talk about the color. So I think color is what? Slightly copperish, gold with a copperish tinge.
Yeah.
Like a dark rose gold.
Deep golden, some copperish hues.
Yeah.
Tinge of copper, that's all.
After a couple of drops of water, I think the ripe fruity notes come through.
Some spicy notes also open up. Like, I think when water wasn't added, all the rich fruit notes were like dominating the whiskey.
Okay.
But I think now I also get hints of, like you said, cinnamon, star anise. I get hints of vanilla. I'm also getting some citrus notes.
I'm getting a bit of cranberry now.
Got a lovely, creamy mouthfeel.
Silky velvet.
Yeah.
And again, it has a lot going on. You have some sweet, you have some spicy notes to it. You have got nice oak. It's quite rich.
Yeah. I mean, I would say this is one of those loaded whiskeys. It's got a lot of flavor, lots going on.
It keeps giving.
I get dates, I get berries. I also get like those baking spices, cinnamon, star anise.
The dried fruit notes are quite prominent now on the palate. Chocolate as well. Like, let's say 75 to 80% dark chocolate.
There's a lot of dark chocolate. Yes, you're right.
Again, the finish, it's very, very long. I mean, you get that sweetness,
Yeah.
getting some chocolate, some cinnamon,
Yeah.
and it has a nice nuttiness also on the finish coming
It's
through.
a very desserty brand. I think it could go really well with like a dark chocolate ganache.
You know, if you look at the overall packaging of this one, right, from the box in which it comes to the metallic cork,
Yeah.
right, or the stopper, and then obviously the overall flavor profile or the quality of the liquid, it's I think it will make for a great gift for someone.
That's true. Perfect Christmas gift. Vinayak, what do you think you will rate it on a scale of 1 to 10?
I think I'll rate it 9 for sure. It's a very good whiskey. It's a very complex, and there's so much going on. I'm just looking at the legs, even though they don't sort of tell you much about the whiskey, but I'm just looking at how the liquid is clinging onto the glass.
Yeah.
Very well balanced. What about you?
I think I would still give it like a 8.
Okay.
I think for me in the range, I think the 18-year-old stands out very well. While this is very rich and very complex, it's not something that I would go back to again and again.
Okay.
So I would rate it an 8 on 10. So that's a quick review of the Royal Brackla 12-year-old, 18-year-old and the 21-year-old. Let us know which ones you've tried and which one do you like the best. Please do not forget to like and subscribe to our channel.